Patrick Fitzgerald is an innovator, juggler, contact aficionado, host, and most importantly, a close dear friend of mine. This was a very special episode, not only for himself, but for his brother, as well as myself. We touched on the roots of where it all began and the challenges along the way. Be sure to like, comment on this video. It really helps out, as well as subscribing to our Patreon. Without further ado, enjoy the episode, my friends, and welcome to the Poidcast. What's up, everybody? For a very special episode 30, I'm going to be letting my brother, Skylar Reynolds, take over the responsibilities of being the host of this podcast. No one in the world is more qualified or knows me and my story better than my brother, Sky. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Sky. What's up? How are you doing, man?
What's up, man? Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be the first host of the Poidcast. That's not you. You know what I'm saying? Not that we don't love you and stuff. After all this time we've been spinning, man, it's due,
It is very due, my friend.
Let's get right into it, man. For those, listening to the podcast that do not know the origin story of where it all started, Patrick, go ahead and tell us the origin story of where it all started.
Well, you're very intertwined with the very beginning, as I'm sure you already know, but everybody at home who doesn't know, the first time that I spun poi, I was 10 years old, going all the way back in 2007. It dates me, ages me, I know. So, yeah. So I was 10 years old and was living with my brother. And my older brother, Sky, came home and he had poi, and he had just barely learned how to do a two-beat. And he came home with a set of poi, and he showed me how to do a two-beat. And we had both started the same day. Okay, so he showed me how to do the two-beat, and then within about 30 minutes to an hour, I showed him how to do a three-beat. And we were right into the teaching each other.
Begun.
Yeah, right into it. You showed me how to do a two-beat. I showed you how to do a three-beat. And when I first did it, you were like, what is that? Like, is that different? And I was like, it is different. Look, I'm crossing, like I'm doing this. So started very early. Both of our journeys started at the same time, very, very early. And that is basically how the very first part of the journey began.
Nice, man. What year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, 2007. 2007. Yep.
Man. I feel like times were so much different back then. We had so many friends that spun, so many inspirations, just local people we could hit up at any time. I know that drum circle was had a huge impact on your growth and development with poi when you were here in Salt Lake. And for those of you who don't know, Salt Lake drum circles back in the day were massive.
They were huge.
Massive.
They were
huge.
Look
in any direction, seeing people spin poi. Go ahead and tell us about that, Patrick, and your take on that.
So, I mean, I have a lot to thank you for that, and a lot to attribute to yourself, because you were the cooler older brother and I was the younger little tiny ass motherfucker around. And you brought me everywhere, and you introduced me to all the cool people, and you took me to all the cool places. So I was a little kid, and you brought me to my first drum circle. I think I was 11 or 12. I think I was 11 years old. And you brought me to drum circle in Salt Lake City, which at that time I was very nervous, and I didn't know anybody there. You're the only guy I knew there. Obviously, you already had friends there. And I got introduced to a lot of different poi spinners back then. So about 30 to 40 poi spinners minimum that I knew back then in Salt Lake City at drum circle. And at such a young age, first of all, I want to thank all those people. If any of you are listening to this episode, I want to thank you for being so kind and so willing to teach me and so willing to be friends with me. Just such a young guy. And you guys really brought me in and taught me a lot about poi and a lot about just flow arts in general. So huge thanks to all of you. If you're listening, shout out to all of you. And, I was very lucky. Obviously, I'm very lucky, and I feel so blessed right now and throughout the last couple of years of my life to know that I was introduced to so many world-class talents back then. I mean, we were truly so lucky. And I've talked about Wyatt Davis and Justin Hindi a lot about on this podcast, but this is, you know, my story for a very special episode 30. This is truly my origin story. And I've shared bits and pieces here about Wyatt and Hindi and the earlier guys, and you know, that influenced me as a child. But truly, we knew that they were special. We knew that they were the best in town. We knew that they were the best in the state, but we didn't truly understand how special and how gifted they were. And it really does not get lost upon me nowadays because, you know, I was able to see firsthand what they were doing, and I really got introduced to so many different styles, right? So it was all the people that I knew, 30 to 40 people, maybe more, right? That all had different styles and they all had different things that they were working on. And we really got a good taste about the broader flow community and the broader poi community at large, because it was such a good sample size and a good depiction of the time period, because everybody was working on, like, we got to see the time periods go by as the poi community at large learned.
Absolutely.
The smaller Salt Lake City community was directly impacted and influenced by that. So we got to see it was a ripple effect. You know, we had Nick Woolsey as the main influence of that time period for me and you, Sky. And it was very obvious based on what everybody else around us was doing. And I got to see, like I said, so many different styles that were all around me, and we had such a wide variety of what people were doing. So Drum Circle absolutely was the foundation and the beginning of me learning a lot about poi and flow arts. And just on a side note, not even so much poi related, but Drum Circle was really such a home for me to experience a lot of the aspects of the flow arts community at a very young age. So I was able to have fun in so many different aspects. You know, there wasn't just poi. There was, you know, hacky sack and disc. You were throwing disc every day. We were doing just so many different activities that were just really great. It was truly the best childhood, because that's really what we had when we were kids. We didn't have the perfect family situation, Sky. You know, me and Sky were very much on our own in a lot of ways. God bless my mom. Love my mom very much. She was hardworking. She was doing her thing, right? We didn't have the best family situation. All right. That's nobody's fault. All right. But that's just what it is. So me and Sky's family, truly, during the day and on the weekends, man, it was Drum Circle. And I'm just very, very, very fucking grateful and blessed to have gone through that at such a young age. And it never gets lost upon me. So again, anybody that was there for that, Justin, Hindi, and Wyatt Davis, and all the other people that were an integral part of my beginnings, you included, Sky, thank you very much. Guys, this podcast wouldn't even be happening if it weren't for Sky. So this is a really big moment for Sky to be able to host this podcast and interview me. It's one of the main reasons he is the most qualified person to do this interview is because this podcast would not exist without Sky. So thank you very much, man.
Yeah, man. You know, I mean, I look back on those being the good days. I think those were some of the most memorable times of my entire life. And I talked about it on the first episode already. For those of you that have heard, I'm sorry, but you know, we'd be spinning fire at night, it would turn into nighttime and everyone would get out the fire. This is before anyone had really good LEDs. So we did a lot of fire, and Patrick would go, you would go like pick up the fire poi, and I'd have a lot of, people looking at me like, dude, your 10-year-old brother over there is picking up the fire poi. Are we good? I'm like, yeah, we're fine, man. And then, once they see, they're like, holy shit. All right, then,
Yeah. And poi was all that it was my first passion and my first hobby, really, truly my first hobby in life. And it was the first thing that I was able to artistically express myself. It was the first thing that I had to latch onto as far as a hobby and something to dedicate myself towards. And I just wanted to be at an early age, I was so cocky, man. I was such a little kid. I had a little kid mindset, guys. I've grown a lot, from that time period, but I was 10, 11 years old, guys. So I was a very cocky youngin because I had already put in a ton of time. I'd already put a ton of time into poi, and I was already very experienced. And I will credit again that experience to those around me, right? But I was definitely the youngin in the crowd. I was definitely the youngin.
I would say by a significant margin.
Yeah, man.
And the crazy thing is we had these great times in drum circle. We had all of these friends, every single time we went, you learned something new from somebody. We shared our tricks, and then I remember when you moved to Boise, and you went from such a large intertwined community with, always having somebody to spin with, and going to, not knowing anyone that spins poi and kind of only having yourself, man. Like, how was that?
Yeah. So it was a huge transition. It was a huge transition from having yourself and a lot of our poi friends back then in Salt Lake City to moving to Boise, not knowing anybody, not knowing any poi spinners for quite a long time. And I think the move to Boise for me was a huge opportunity for development. I didn't have 30 to 40 poi spinners that were readily available for me anymore to interact with and share with. I had a lot of time alone and a lot of time to focus about what I loved about poi and the areas that I wanted to explore with poi. So I had, as much as important as it is to have experience with your community and have experience of people influencing you as an individual, it is equally important to have time by yourself to discover what you want to do with poi. And so the isolated time that I had in Boise when I was by myself and I wanted to focus on certain aspects of poi, such as contact poi, was a huge thing. Tosses kind of came a little bit around that time. Tosses and contact poi are mainly still the huge key points of my style today. Those were the early building blocks of what I still love about poi today. So it was a very transformative and crucial time in my life to focus on what I liked and what I wanted to do with poi.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. It's crazy to think that most people, when they go from a community, a big community, to a small community, maybe they wouldn't be, you came out cracked. Let me just say it. You went out there and within 3 or 4 months, man, they were doing stuff I had never seen before. And I feel like you really took off when you got to spend some time on your own and just kind of create and decide what you wanted to do out there. Because I'm sure there were times that you felt yourself maybe feeling unmotivated or maybe like slipping a little bit. Like there's no one, you're not going to go show your friends after, right? Like, how was that?
This is a huge part in my story. And a lot of the time, this is actually such an important topic that I kind of gets lost upon people nowadays is when I was spinning poi as a young kid back in, again, when I moved to Boise, in 2011, right? Poi spinning was not cool. Poi spinning was not cool back then. In junior high, like if people saw me spinning poi in the park, they'd be like, "What's that kid doing playing with his balls? Spinning balls around." You know how many times we've heard that, folks? You at home, everybody knows how many times we've been clowned on, made fun of, right? Back then, it wasn't cool, man. It was not cool. I did this shit because I truly loved it and I wanted to become better at it. And it was my artistic outlet. Through all the bullshit, poi has always been there for me, man. Throughout anything in my life, poi has always been there for me. And, this time period, definitely, I felt myself slipping into isolation and not being able to do it as much because I didn't want people to see me doing it. Nobody understood me. Nobody saw me like that. Yeah. Nobody really understood the art, especially the people that I was around. People would clown on me for doing that shit. I'd be doing it by myself. I like my closest friends. I would show that I'm like, "Hey, dude, like I do this thing on the side." I'm like, "Oh, I spin poi," and they'd be like, "Dude, what is this?" But I had already developed such a rapport with those individuals. But anybody else aside from my closest friends, I was very shy, and I didn't want to do that in front of a lot of people, man. And it was nowadays, just to fast forward a little bit, like I had gotten a comment online recently within the last 2 years. Somebody was like, you making the remarks of like, I only do it for like clout or for like
Yeah.
to be seen, or I want to
I
be like
recall.
performing for like, it's like you just want to be cool. It's like, motherfucker, you have no idea, bro. You have
Yeah.
no fucking idea how much like of my life was, and my poi spinning life was shamed, and was like, I did it behind closed doors. I didn't let
Yeah.
anybody see it. It's because it wasn't cool, and I didn't do it for people to. I never had any aspirations to be, on stage performing at flow arts festivals. I didn't even know what the fuck a flow arts festival was back then, bro. Like
Right.
the idea for me to be doing this shit based on like people to be seeing me and to be where I'm at now, that's completely out of the realm for what I even thought was possible. So it was very based on love, and it was my first artistic outlet, and it was, like I said, it was very segmented, and it was very closed off behind who I even let see me. But like I said, this time period was very good for me to develop myself and to drill very hard, very consistently. I drilled for many hours a day, every single day, and it was a very important time period in my life as far as development goes.
Yeah, man. Well, that's amazing to hear. And for those of you who don't know, Patrick, when you drill, you drill. This is you'll drill. Blood, sweat, and tears, man. I may have said this on the first episode too, but this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I remember when, me and you were living together, I knew how you were spinning, and I was trying to download something on my laptop. It's like storage full. I'm like, how in the fuck is my storage full? And it showed that it was all in a photo booth, which was the video software on the Mac back then, right? And I saw just, what is it like? I saw a couple 4-hour videos, 2-hour videos, 6-hour videos of you just repeatedly drilling and trying the same things over and over and over and over and over again. Like seriously, it was insane, man. Do you still drill like that right now?
I drill more. I drill more than that nowadays.
Oh, yeah,
well, okay.
That's crazy to think about.
I would say that this is an interesting topic because back then I was filming for myself. I never released any of that footage. That footage was completely unreleased, and I had no intention of releasing any of that footage. Right. I wanted to get it on video because I wanted to see how did it look, what could I improve, was it up to my standards as far as what I saw out there online or in the community? Did it look how I wanted it to look? Right. It was I never started filming with the intention of releasing it with the intention of receiving attention. It was never about that for me. It was always about just trying to critique my own style. Yeah. And I think the early days of recording for like 5 hours back to back without even stopping. I mean, I do that in a very different way nowadays, and this is fast forwarding quite a bit, but now my attention has shifted towards juggling repetitions and juggling practice. Specifically within the last year, I've been really taking juggling more seriously, which we'll get into later in the episode.
Yeah,
but
I got a lot for you. So
things have definitely shifted, but back then it was definitely based around, like I said, just improving my technique and seeing myself on film, seeing how it looked, and just grinding, man. I grinded so much back then, dude.
And it's funny because looking back, I feel like your style changed a lot over the years, but the one thing that remained was your sequence building. So that's one of my favorite parts about your style, man. And I remember, 10-year-old Patrick, 11-year-old Patrick at this point has a 3-minute sequence. 3-minute sequence. I don't even think I have a 3-minute sequence in my head right now. Do you still feel like you do that kind of stuff? Do you still feel like you're pretty adequate at building sequences?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think my biggest strength and the reason, I won't say like the reason that I have like a decent following in poi, but like one of the reasons that I have a decent following in poi is my ability to connect A to B to C to D to E and just connect it and see how many different connections I can get, right? Because it's like from any point, how many different points in relation to what direction am I spinning? What side of my body am I on? Am I same time, split time,
Right.
opposite? Am I, all that stuff, all that plays into what is possible from any given point. How many different things from this point, how many different transitions can I get to from this point? And I think that's why I'm good at sequence building, is because I would take, like, for example, if you're watching this podcast, you will probably know the terminology that I'm speaking to right now. But if I was, let's say I was opposite split time on my right side, very specific. How many different things can I do from that point? Okay.
Right.
And I would just map them all out. I would try to list them in my head and be like, how many different things can I do from this thing? Right. And then I would go through all the different things and I'd be like, all right, what do I want to do from there? I can do 10 different things from this point. Okay. And I would choose a thing and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then to the next point, and I would end at the next thing. And I'd be like, how many different things can I do from this point? And I would find different ways to get into that thing. And I would find different ways to exit that thing. And that is the biggest part about my sequence building, is I would try to keep it very dense, and I would try to be as creative and to fill everything as full as I possibly could, not wasting a beat, right? And that's something that I've kind of have a different aspect on and a different point of view nowadays. But back then it was a huge focus on my sequence building, was not wasting any time, not wasting any beats. I was always trying to fill and make my sequences as dense and as compact and as technical as I possibly could. It was a huge focus of mine to be constantly filling something with something that's special,
Yeah, man. It's funny because I already know these things, but I love hearing you talk about this, man. I really do. And, if you were to pick like one thing that happened on your poi journey, whether it was advice from a peer, watching somebody, as far as your development now, I mean, if you were to pick one point, what would it be?
Okay. Well, folks have heard this story. I've said this before on the podcast. But for somebody who doesn't know, and if you've heard it already, I'm just going to run through it again. All right, it's worth saying again. This is my episode. This is my interview. All right, so rewind all the way back to probably 2013, roughly. I had gotten into contact poi. Again, shout out to you for getting me into contact poi. But I had learned an inner arm roll, and I was very proud of it. I was very happy about it, okay? It was a big deal, guys. Back then, contact poi, inner arm rolls, it was like, whoa, guys. Like, it was a big deal, right? So I was like a little kid, and I was like so happy to like show my friends that were much better than me. And Justin Hindi was like my fucking guy. He was like my idol. He's still, you guys know that how much I respect him, right? So I showed Hindi. I was like, dude, Hindi, look at this thing that I can do. And I did a contact roll with my right arm, and my left hand was not doing shit. And Hindi was like, dude, that's dope, right? But like, what's your other hand doing? And I was like, damn, dude, my other hand ain't doing shit, bro. And then like I went home and I was like, what could my other hand be doing? Right. And it really started my journey creating density and creating contrast in what my right hand and my left hand are doing simultaneously, and the differences in between what they're doing and the picture that it overall creates. Right. So my right hand could be doing a contact roll. How many different things could I be doing with my left hand? How could I do it? Could I be doing an anti-spin toss? Could I be doing an anti-spin flower? Could I be doing a no-beat toss? Could I be doing another arm roll? Could I be doing a folding leg? So like all these things that is like, it really opens the door for potential in yourself when you're able to categorize how many different things you could do at a said point, at a different movement, or at a different timing, or at a different relation to your body. And that really kickstarted my style today. And I have so much to thank for you, Sky, and for Hindi, and for all the other people that really made me think made me start to think that way and envision poi in a grand, like a numbers game based on how many different things I could be doing from how many, like a said point in time based on relation, direction, timing, all that. Like it was a very crucial point in my spinning career. So yeah, definitely have to credit Hindi for that. And just Salt Lake City in general, man, you know?
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. Those truly were the good days, you know. And I say that those were some of the happiest days of my entire life.
They were, me too.
You know? And
me too.
I just, you know, and I know you're talking a lot about what helped you form and mold into the spinner you are today. There's been a lot of things, a lot of people, all different kinds of events. I do know that this is probably a good time to get into those YouTube videos that we're sharing today that you wanted to go over, man. You know,
perfect time.
Pull that shit up, Joey. I've always wanted to say that. So my time.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a video, obviously, that's very recent, right? Yeah. But I mean, where do I even start? Bow juggler, the breaking point juggling 2023. This is the best, the greatest poi juggling video that has ever been released. Not even close, guys. Yeah. Not even close.
Undoubtedly.
Okay? Nothing even stands even. Yeah, nothing compares, guys. So
absolutely incredible.
You know what? Videos like this, I think even for myself, right? It's beautiful to see. It's incredible to see. But part of me as a competitive guy, as a guy who wants to be in the top tier jugglers and performers and spinners in general, I want to make my part. I want to make my mark in the poi community, guys. I do. I'm a prideful person. So part of me sees this video and is almost a little bit, I'll be honest, this is me, my time to be honest a little bit. I'm almost a little bit demoralized in the sense of like, I will never be this good, right? I'll never be this good. But I will say that I've seen videos way back in the day, way back when, 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, when I saw videos and I had the same thought. I had the same thought of I will never be that good. And guess what, guys? Today, I am that good. I am that good. And I have taken my skills to a level that I could have never believed when I saw that clip, when I saw that video. I was like, thought to myself, I'll never be that good, guys. I'll never be that good, right? And obviously this video is next level. Bo is pushing the boundaries for what's possible in the poi juggling sphere, right? And part of me still, right now, I still feel like I'll never be that good. Bo is Bo is fucking godlike, dude, right? But I want us to keep in mind that if we have inspirations like these in the poi world and in the juggling world, you can push yourself harder, and you'll be surprised about what you will be able to accomplish. And I think he is living proof that this pattern that you're thinking that's impossible, you might be able to do it. You could do it. You could do it if you worked hard enough for it. You could do it if you drilled it enough, if you put in enough of your life and enough of your soul into a pattern to get it, right? And this is an extreme example, but we need extreme examples to prove to ourselves that it's possible, to prove that this is doable, right? And Bo is just a shining example of what true dedication looks like in the juggling and poi world. And I just cannot give up enough to this guy. He is truly the greatest poi juggler to ever exist, and I am very grateful for his influence in our sphere. And I'm grateful to have his advice. Like, we talk all the time. I'm like, how am I even chatting with the greatest poi juggler of all time? How am I even in contact with this guy, right? So huge shout out to Bo. If you want to get better at poi juggling, go check out his Patreon, please. He's so interactive, so responsive, such a fantastic member of the community. The next video, I will just segment out of it, is ꞉ Smythe, another one of my biggest poi juggling inspirations.
Yeah, right.
She is quite a visionary in her own regard and one of the best representatives of the poi, like the women in poi community that are just killing it. And again, I said this on a previous episode, but it doesn't matter what scope you put Cassandra in, whether it's like, oh, she's one of the best women poi spinners. She's one of the best poi spinners regardless. Doesn't matter. You don't even have to put her in a box. She is the best. One of the best, period. She is incredible. Like, she is one of the visionaries of the poi community, man. Like, and the whole way that this video was put together, Kevin Axtell said this beautifully. If you haven't watched the episode, please go watch it. Kevin Axtell is one of the best guests that we've had on this podcast so far. He is just an incredibly wise guy with so much to say about the poi community, the juggling community, and the performing arts community at large. And we really talked about this video in depth. I don't want to repeat myself too much about this video, but Cassandra deserves a spot up in here for sure. Like,
absolutely.
I really considered my top 5 videos, and Cassandra deserves to be up here without a doubt. Shout out to Cassie, and again, I'm just blessed to have such talented and sweet friends in the poi community, and she's absolutely one of them, man. She's awesome. I have so much respect for her.
Yeah, man. I think that's a beautiful video too. I feel like every single time she posts anything new, I always watch it 3 or 4 times because some of it I've never seen before, just truly impeccable,
Cassie's awesome. And really quick, before we get into the next video, when I first saw Cassie juggling poi way back, I don't know, probably like 2013, 2014, maybe. Like, I'll be honest, I did not think that poi juggling was that cool back in the day. I really didn't. And we'll touch on this here in a little bit as far as the 3 poi journey, okay? But like, Cassie has been at this shit for so long. She has been dialing in and dedicated on poi juggling for so long that she is just, it's a no-brainer that she's up here, It's right. Very cool. Huge shout out to her, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Shout out to you, Cassie. Absolutely.
And the next video that we're getting into, okay, one of my biggest inspirations of all time, and to this day, probably in my top 2, top 3, the way that Wojta performs and the way that he approaches poi and performing is truly one of the most significantly inspiring moments of my entire life as an artist, to see him perform live and to meet him. He's such a humble person, you guys. Like, he is such a wonderful individual and just a great human being to bounce ideas off of. And what an inspirational person in so many different ways. And he's about to get into a pattern with 3 poi. I'll tell you when it comes up, but I'll give you a little bit of backstory on this pattern. When I first saw this pattern done with 3 poi, which was Wojta, is the only person I've ever seen do this pattern ever, okay, besides myself. I saw this pattern and I was like, that shit is godlike. Like, that, I want to do that pattern more than I've ever wanted to do any pattern ever in my life. I saw it and I was like, that shit is, quite frankly, it just exhibits mastery. And this one right here, right? Hold on. Ready? We're almost here. Right here. No, sorry. I apologize.
It's okay, man. You got all hyped.
It's a triquetra. It's a triquetra on both sides of right here. This is it.
So flawless.
Holy shit.
So beautiful.
I saw that pattern and I was like, I must learn it. I must learn it. And I did. And this is a video that I put in here that I'm so proud of, because I saw this video and I saw the pattern and I was like, that is one of the most beautiful patterns I've ever seen in my life, ever done with poi.
Right.
And I thought to myself, again, I was like, there's no way I could ever do that. There's no way. He's too good. He's too good, right? But then guess what? I learned it. And I know that pattern now, right? So these videos that we take inspiration from and that we love, and we're like, oh, they're amazing, right? But like, I can never do it. You can do it. You can do it. You have to dissect it. You have to push yourself to do it. And for the 4th out of 5 videos that we have, Surreal Brainstorming 2011. This is probably my most watched poi video of all time.
I can second that. Second that.
Sky, how many parties were we at when this video, like, we were at all the little flow arts parties, and we had fucking all our flow friends, all our poi spinning homies that were all in the circle. How many times was this in our mix and that we were watching this fucking video with everybody or all around us?
You know, man, I would think a better question would be, how many parties did you not show that video to? Because that number would be easier to count. There's no way we can count, man. And dude. There are still things that I saw in this video that I still do today, and I don't see anyone else do. Not that it's something someone can't do, but I mean, I learned from watching this video, man. This guy's insane. And what are those strings? What are those ropes, man?
He's a visionary. He is a visionary. Shit. One of the greatest poi minds of our life, of our generation. Thus far, Surreal is one of the best poi spinners of all time, considering the timeline, even not considering the timeline. even if you take this video and you compare it to today's standards, he is still one of the best of all time. I stand by that, bro.
Absolutely, he is. And you know, I remember, I think we talked about this, before, but he was part of the Visual Juggling 1 and Visual Juggling 2.0. And there's still stuff on there that I cannot grasp. He is truly, truly unbelievable. I think that is still available out there. It's an amazing film.
Yeah, guys. I mean, Surreal, if you haven't seen this video, and you know what's funny about this video is brainstorming compared to the other video, Melting Poi, which was actually a widely more viewed video. I think this video is actually better produced, and I think the quality is better. I think the tech is better. Like, it is definitely an under-referenced and an under-spoken about video, and he is one of the greatest of, just period, right? So, definitely my most watched poi video of all time. I still watch this video every year, without a doubt. He is one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still right now, I'm captivated and impressed. This guy's nuts.
I know. Go watch the full video, you guys.
Please.
It's a long video.
You'll never be able to.
Speaking of long videos, play it and roll it back. Play it and roll it back. Roll it back. All right. Okay. Tim Goddard Sessions 2019. This is hands down my favorite poi video of all time. It is, in my opinion, the greatest tech poi video ever released. I think this video is extremely underrepresented and spoken about. This video is, how long is this? 45 minutes? 45 minutes, roughly, of the gnarliest tech poi you will ever see. And Tim has been one of the most relevant poi spinners of all time throughout all the years. He has been on the cusp of innovating tech poi for as long as I have been spinning poi. 2007, he has been just creating and just been such a visionary in every sense of the word. This is absolutely, without a doubt, my favorite poi video of all time. And I'm glad we saved it for last.
Oh, absolutely, man. And you know what, even going back to the drum circle days, when people that were, we'd ask people who their favorite spinners were, and anyone that said Tim Goddard was their favorite spinner, you already knew was going to have some original crazy shit, and it's just what an impact he had on the world that, and it, from such a long distance away, that even touched us, I mean, so many years ago.
Let it play.
Let's go, Joey.
Okay. So, we're gonna let this play for a second. I do want to continue to talk about Tim. If you haven't seen the episode, please go back and watch it. Tim is one of my greatest inspirations, if you cannot already tell, of all time. And what a humble dude, and what an impact he had on the global poi world at large. I mean, this guy is well-rounded in every sense of the word, in terms of flower placements, isolations, pattern spinning, tech poi, contact poi, tosses, juggling, three poi. Like, you name it, the guy is the most well-rounded dude. Like, for real, I think he is the most well-rounded dude, in my opinion, of anybody. Like, he is extremely talented in all realms of poi, and that is one of the reasons that I love him, and one of the reasons that I think he is, in my opinion, the GOAT, the poi GOAT.
Yeah,
he's insane. And he has innovated so much.
Yeah, man. Especially from when we were, learning, and our, generation, I would say Tim was one of the godfathers, like one of the founding fathers that just paved the way for all of us to learn, and showed us what's possible.
What a great way of describing it. Paved the way, a godfather, a grandfather of poi. Okay, not to age him, but truly, like, he has been around for a while, guys. He's been around. He's been doing special stuff for a long time. This is not his first rodeo. He's been doing special shit for as long as I've even known what poi is. So, support him in any way that you can. Go check him out on Instagram. If you don't have him on Instagram, please go check him out. I want to let this video play for a little bit longer, please. I have plans to go to Australia and to meet this man, and and the work that he's done in Australia and with his performing crew, and the work that he's done internationally. It just really is truly captivating and inspiring on so many different levels. Not even just a tech level and a skill level, but as far as what he has done in terms of influence and what he's done for his community in Australia. His performance company has reached new heights. He is such a special individual. I can't give it up enough. Please go watch this full video. If you need some poi inspiration, watch the full video. This video is like 45 minutes long, has great music, which Tim has a great taste in music, guys. All right, go watch the full video if you need some inspiration. This is the video for inspiration. Tim has tons of long vlogs and parts about him spinning poi all across the world, performing at the biggest events in the world. Yeah, go check him out. That is a wrap.
Yeah. What's crazy, thinking back to some of the first Tim Goddard videos I ever saw a long time ago, I'm like, I think he has 3 poi in his hand. I think I see 3. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's spinning 3 fucking poi. That's crazy. Because I had never seen that before. And I feel like that drove the direction here in Salt Lake for 3 poi. I feel like people started spinning 3 poi because of Tim.
They totally did. I mean, him and Jonathan Alvarez just really sparked the 3 poi revolution for sure.
They absolutely did, man. And I know this has been, such a long journey for you, and you've had so many days and nights just thinking of, what to do next and where to go next, and all of those good stuff, man. I even know that, let's go back, right? You moved away and went to the Coast Guard, right? And you had you were on a ship. You lived on a ship. There were long periods of times where you couldn't even spin poi. Like, how did it feel going from drilling your ass off, depriving yourself of sleep, food, to going and not being able to spin for months at a time on the boat?
Well, I wasn't depriving myself of food because I had tons of food, and I was a big boy back in the day. I had a lot of food. All right, but as far as in terms of spinning and the time period, the Coast Guard was an extremely developmental time period in my life. These were some of the most difficult and challenging times in my entire life. And unless you know and you've been in the Coast Guard, you can't possibly understand the hardships that I endured throughout these times. It was a very transformative and important, integral time in my life. The Coast Guard was an extremely difficult time for sure. So there was plenty of times where I could spin poi, but I lived on a boat I lived on a boat doing search and rescue for years of my life, full-time job. And yeah, not being able to spin for a couple years regularly and being able to drill was a sacrifice that I had to
Yeah.
make to better myself. And this was a
Yeah.
very interesting and difficult time in my life.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, man, I mean, it was tough. It was tough. It was very
Right.
unproductive in terms of poi, but
Right.
I wasn't able to focus on poi for the majority of these couple of years
Yeah.
during that time that I was living on the boat.
Yeah, man. You know, it was definitely some crazy times. I remember when you got out of the Coast Guard and you came and lived with me right after.
I did.
And I just remember, you know, all the poi spinning that was going on when you first moved in. You know, I remember back then, like me and you were kind of in the same boat, right? We're two poi exclusively.
We were.
You know, maybe one poi if we're dicking around on the phone or something, right? But
Right.
like never three poi. We had no interest in learning three poi. You know, I just, you know, and then you just randomly one day decided to start spinning three poi, man. What made you want to start spinning three poi?
So a couple of people, and this is very important. So the folks that I really want to shout out are Danny Rose and Nate Allen. Okay. Nate Allen in particular, because I saw Nate's videos, I saw Nate Allen's videos, and for whatever reason, what he was doing really, really clicked with me, and it set me off. Okay, to rewind a little bit. Back then, we knew three poi spinners way back when, before I went into the military, before I took that whole leap and did that whole fucking thing, way back then. Three poi was being done in a very poor manner. Okay, like it was not good. Okay, if you fight me about it, it wasn't. Three poi fucking sucked back then, you guys. It was not good. And when we saw three poi being spun, I always had the thought in the back of my head. I was like, well, cool, bro, you got three. Like,
Yeah.
see what I can do with two. Like, look at what I'm doing with two. Your three poi looks sloppy. Again, I was a competitive guy. Okay.
Right.
But
right.
three poi was not being done to a level that impressed me or inspired me. I did not ever give a fuck about three poi. Ever. Up until a point in my life where I got out of the military and I saw people doing it like Danny Rose, Nate Allen, and a couple individuals such as Chris Kelly, unfortunately, and Tim Goddard, right? So there's quite a few individuals that really inspired me to start doing three poi. But I think it just got to a point where I saw three being done and I was like, okay, I'm done holding out prejudice. And Cassie, also shout out to Cassie, Cassandra Smythe. I saw three poi being done and juggled in a way that I was like, all right, man.
Right.
I am done with my reservations about three poi. I want to be able to do three poi in a way that makes me feel and makes the audience feel in the ways that I feel when I see it, right? So like, made me feel a certain way seeing it. I'm like, fuck, man, I want to put my own spin on that. I want to take all the concepts and all the fun ideas that I've had with two poi, and I want to conglomerate them into three poi, and I want to make a special certain style. And shout out to Drew Overbay too. So when I picked up a third poi, first of all, I didn't know any two poi one hand trick officially. I say officially because the only thing that I knew how to do with two poi one hand was a little faker butterfly with two poi one hand. I was like, just fucking didn't even know anything. I was like faking it. My wrist, grip was trash. Couldn't maintain it for a minute. Like it was terrible, right? But the first actual two poi one hand trick that I ever learned, Nate Allen taught me. And that was back in 2019, 2020, like roughly 2019, 2020, roughly around that area. So we're coming up on 5 years. And it was really such a transformative experience because it gave me a new challenge. and it gave me a new drive. And I felt like I was starting over in a lot of ways. I felt like, I came into 3-point and I was like, man, like I'm like ego talking. I'm like, I'm so good at 2-point. I know how to do this and that. I've been doing 2-point for this amount of years. I came into 3-point, got humbled, bro. Humbled. Okay. Like, you think 3-point is going to be semi-easy, or you think it is going to it's a completely separate thing. Okay. You don't know until you don't know. You don't know how difficult it is until you try. Poi juggling humbled me.
Right.
I remember trying to juggle 3-poi. The first thing that I really tried to do, juggling wise, was a no beat cascade. And, I tried it first and I was like, okay, this is pretty hard. This is really hard, right? And I kept working at it and I was like, okay, this is really hard. And then I kept working at it and I realized, holy shit, dude, this is actually way harder than anybody thinks. It is way harder than that, right? So I had multiple moments of realization to where it was a new level of like, wow, this is really hard. Wow, this is super hard. Wow, this is ridiculously hard, right? So it kept going on, and I think it really motivated me in a lot of ways to live the life of a juggler and not just not expecting to just get a pattern based on how talented we are naturally, right? I'm so talented naturally. Sure, I am talented naturally. I have great hand-eye coordination, all the things, right? It's good.
Right.
But no amount of hand-eye coordination, no amount of talent, raw talent, will ever get over the fact of you have to put in the work. You have to drill. You have to spend these hours on getting better at it. None of us are better than that. None of us are better. None of us are over the amount of time that you have to spend to get good at poi juggling. That shit is differently hard for sure, man. That's been the hardest fucking thing that I've ever done with poi, is learning how to juggle poi. And the struggle continues. We continue to work on it, and poi juggling is a way of life that we have to stay consistent in, and we have to continue to fail. Like, much of my poi spinning nowadays is not being able to do something, right? Like, poi juggling nowadays is not, hey, look at this thing I can do. It's like, cool, you can do that thing. What I live nowadays is not being able to do something, being frustrated by what I can't do, pushing myself to do what I cannot do, wanting to do what I cannot do. So it's like, it's an eternal push of really pushing yourself to learn the things that you cannot do to be better. And that's really what poi juggling stems to me, and like what it means to me is really living that life of consistency and pushing yourself to do the things that you cannot do.
Right, man. I remember when you were learning the no beat cascade, I remember you telling me verbatim, I'm never going to learn this, man. It's like, I think I'm getting it, and then the next day, I don't have it at all. I remember you said that for a long time.
I did.
I remember you said that for a long time. And, it's crazy because it's like you kind of did things the other way around, right? Most people, I mean, I know you know how to juggle for a long time, but you never had an interest. You never got clubs, and
No, I didn't.
you first started to want to learn how to juggle with poi.
Yeah, I
which
did.
is, in my opinion, one of the hardest, if not the hardest, apparatuses to juggle.
It
you know
is.
what I mean? Do you think that, would you say that the no beat cascade was the hardest thing you've ever had to learn, or that you ever chose to learn?
This is a question that I've thought about a lot. Although I can run sebs for a couple repetitions, sebs is obviously way harder than no beat cascade, but it was getting started that I think was the hardest part. So do I think not being able to do no beat cascade to being able to do no beat cascade versus being able to do no beat cascade to being able to do sebs, I think getting to no beat cascade and being able to juggle poi in the first place with no beats is way harder. Like, that
Yeah.
That transition in between not being able to juggle no beat anything with poi versus anything past that, for my journey as far as where I'm at now, yes, that is the hardest trick that I've ever had to learn, because I didn't have any base to work off of aside from like, cool, I can do, half shower, or I can do like wall plane cascade. But like, it was unrelentingly difficult, you guys. It was so hard. It was so hard, dude. It took me such a long time to be able to have the motivation, because there was times where I was like, man, fuck that trick. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to work on it. Do two poi. I'll work on my fishtails, whatever it was. You have to be consistent in your practice. You have to be so consistent in your practice, and that's the biggest part about it. If you want to be a good poi juggler, or a good juggler in general, you have to be consistent. That's the number one priority.
Yeah, man. I think that even stems back to the episode with භᴏ. I think that what භᴏ had to do and, had to say about a lot of his drills, and, I forget the word he used, but essentially be as consistent as possible, be as specific as possible.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea. I know that some things aren't like that, but I think things like the no beat cascade, you have to be super fucking specific.
You do.
You have to grind it, man.
You have to
you're
be
not gonna learn it.
You have to be intentional. You have to be dedicated.
Yeah.
You have to want to be able to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, poi juggling has definitely taken on a new life for me recently in the last year, I'll say, because I wasn't very dedicated, because I kind of quit on myself. I kind of quit and I kind of gave up for a while, and I wasn't able to really zone in and focus on what I wanted to. And I didn't really believe in myself, I had all these moments of doubt, and I had all these moments of like, well, I'm good at poi, but like, dude, I just can't do this. It's too hard, right? You have to believe in yourself, man.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself, for sure.
Man. I think that's amazing for you to be able to say something like that too, because I know that all of us doubt ourselves in some way, shape, or form. Whether, even on social media, when we watch one of these videos and we're like, holy fuck, that guy's good. What the hell am I doing? Kind of thing. I think we all go through that, man, and I think that's one of the cool special things about the Poidcast is, we get to hear all of these stories from people, and we get to hear all the struggles. And for me, like, as an active listener to every single episode, on air, waiting on YouTube, clicking refresh, what I'm saying? I know that there's a lot of other people that watch too, man. And there's a lot of new people that are new to poi and don't maybe have a lot of the experience that some of the other people have. And for those people watching and listening right now, man, what advice would you give them? Or, think about it like this, like, what advice would you give yourself, your 13 or 12-year-old self back in the day? What would you say?
Well, it goes a little bit back to what I was saying previously, but I would say the biggest piece of advice that I would give to a new poi spinner, or to myself in my juggling pursuit, believe in yourself, number one. A lot of these patterns that are revered and sought after are very difficult for a reason. Keep pushing, keep drilling. If I can do it, and if භᴏ can do it, you can do it too. If it's possible, you can do it too. The only difference in between somebody that can do it and someone that cannot do it is the belief in themselves, and the drilling, and the time and the dedication put in, the hours put in. It's a huge factor. So you have to be consistent, even if it's an hour or two every day. Like okay, here's an example. If I were to take an allotted amount of time per month, but I had like 20 hours per month to put in, I think, or we'll say 30, just to keep it even. An hour roughly translates to an hour per day. If you were to put in 4 hours every 4 days and have a 4-hour session every 4 days, versus if you were to have a 1-hour session every day.
Right.
The 1 hour session is 100% more beneficial than the 4 hours every 4 days. That is guaranteed. I will die on that hill. Like, you have to be consistent, right?
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
The belief in yourself and the consistency in your practice. That is the biggest fucking things in this world. If you want to be a good poi juggler, in general, you have to do that.
And it's so cool to think about those things, man. I'm thinking back, like, I don't even know what I would tell my own self, right? But, I do think that those are truly, truly important things to always remind ourselves, man. And, let's talk about Joey for a second. Joey's sitting right next to you, man. He's right over there, right? I mean, Joey, what, 2.5 years, 3 years?
Almost
Joey,
3.
Almost 3 years, just from hanging out with the community, hanging out with you and learning. Like, I would say Joey's 30 times better than I was when I was 2.75 years.
Easily, bro.
Like Joey is doing no beat cascade. No, Joey's doing no beat cascade, man. I mean, it does fall into the category of just having a little community, right? Believing in yourself.
When we were 2 or 3 or 4 years in, did we even know anybody that could do a 3-poi no beat cascade? No. Dude, that was not even a thing. Nobody knew. I had never seen that at all. No. I'd never seen anybody do that at all.
No,
right?
I think, yeah. And plus, man, think about the poi we were using back then, man. I do have a special place in my heart for your little striped sock poi that we kind of fought over a lot, man. I love those motherfuckers. But like, think of it, the poi that people were throwing back then, man. Contact poi was not even as popular as it is now. Now, anyone that spins poi, most people have contact poi. Okay, I mean, most people. Back then, it was like, oh, you got contact poi. I don't even know what to do.
The loops.
You know what I mean?
Loops on the fingers. We weren't even doing
chains.
People had loops on the fingers. We had little loops, and we weren't even tossing at all. Think about where we are now. Loops aren't even a thing.
No.
Like, thin tethers are even like a little bit memed upon. Sorry if you have thin tethers, but it's true. Okay, like no beat tosses are like, they're just unequivocally harder if you have thick tethers, static tethers. It's like the knowledge that the community has gained. It is the equipment that we have garnered. So there's a lot of different aspects as far as people that are starting nowadays. They start with a higher bar. They start with a higher knowledge bar. They start with people who know more than what we knew back in the day. Like,
absolutely, man.
There's a lot of stuff that was not even available to us back in that day of learning. And it's just really goes to show you how much the community has grown over the years, and I'm very proud of us as a whole to be able to inspire the next generation, and I'm very excited to see where we go.
Yeah, man. No, I 100% believe in that, and I think that having a big community, or even a community in general, to just kind of bounce inspirational thoughts off of and learn stuff from, it really does help in so many other ways. I remember, so you moved back from the Coast Guard, you lived with me, and then you moved back to Boise, and you had to kind of establish a new community, man. But it sounds like you did. How was your new community in Boise when you were able to go back?
Well, this is a funny story. So I came back to Boise, and I didn't know anybody here again, and somebody had hit me up on Instagram and was like, dude, like, you're in Boise, like, what the hell? Because I was releasing videos for a couple weeks. I was going really hard on social media, and they hit me up and they were like, dude, you're in Boise, like, what the fuck? Like, who are you? Please come hang out with us. Come to this party. Right. They invited me to this party, and I came through to the party, and I showed up, and I brought one of my best friends with me, and rolled up, and everybody, I walked in the party. This is like a really cool moment for me. So it's like a little bit like egos here, right? But it was just in terms of experience. I had more experience than anybody in the state. I had more experience than anybody that was around me. So it is what it is, right? It's not like I'm some like naturally gifted fucking messiah. Like, dude, no, I'm not. I just put in more time. Okay, so it's fine. Like, I'm not more skilled than anybody out there. I just put in more time, more hours, right? So I showed up to the party, and they're like, dude, spin fire for us, like hang out with us, you know. So I like spun fire, and they were fucking blown away, dude, because Idaho has not seen a poi spinner like me, bro. Facts.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's not me being a big headed ego. It's just like actual facts. Idaho has not seen a poi spinner and a motherfucker like me ever. That's facts, right? So they were like, dude, you need to teach us. You need to go through the performing thing with us. You need to host classes here. Like, it was a pretty big deal for Boise and for the Boise flow arts community to have somebody who was experienced as me. And it was really fun, man. They really embraced me. You know, hopefully not all just based on skill. I'm a friendly guy. I like to have fun with my friends. I'm a very like friendly dude for the most part, you know. So it was a really transformative experience as well, as to have a community here that is pushing me and putting me in positions to teach classes, to have a studio space, which was another huge part of my growth. So shout out to anybody in Boise that's listening to this. I love you guys. It was definitely a very big deal for me. So yeah, Boise was a huge growing experience for me to come back to and meet tons of artists who are hungry to grow. And it was great, man. It was really good.
Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the most amazing things about poi for me is we get connected with all different kinds of people that maybe we wouldn't have talked to or wouldn't have crossed paths with if it hasn't been for poi. You know what I mean? And,
For
you know,
sure.
even that one day I came out and saw you guys hang out at the studio for a second, man. I saw just an overwhelming amount of talent there, you know, just, you know,
Reminiscent of
super,
Salt
super
Lake.
cool. Yeah, it just was amazing, you know. And for me, like, it was cool for me to see because, you know, I was there with you for Drum Circle. I was there for the downfall of Drum Circle, the end of Drum Circle. So I hadn't really had that in a long time. When I went out there and saw it, man, it just meant so much to me, you know. And, you know, Joe, I know I've talked about this before, but, you know, that day was special for me too because Joey bestowed me with those purple poi that I still love dearly to my heart. You know what I mean? And just such an amazing experience. You know what I mean?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Yes, he did.
speaking of Joey, I think that
It's that
Joey,
time.
it's that time. It's that time. And I love being able to announce this right now. I love it because I always see it. Joey, let's turn it over to the big man, the myth, the legend himself.
The dog behind the computer, Joey.
For the question.
Get your fucking webcam queued up. Let's see it. Hop in here, big dog. What you got for me, brother? Yeah, hop in here. He's got to adjust his little camera over here. All right, guys. Yeah. Oh, he's got to pull up his list. All right. What's up, Joey?
Hey.
All right. So this question actually got asked 3 times. So we'll go ahead and shout them out down below. First one, I'll just name them off in order. At ZestyFlamingo, Christoflo, and Tristan.co.za. They all asked, what inspired you to start the Poidcast?
Man, that's a fucking dope question, bro. Thank you guys so much. That's a dope question. All right. What inspired me to start the podcast, guys? When I found myself in a position when I was spinning poi all the time, and I was like, there's nobody that talks about poi. There's no long format content about anybody that's talking about poi and talking about their struggles, talking about their journey. We have no documented history of our community, right? So you out there right now, you want to know, like, oh, where Tim Goddard, who is this guy? Where did he start? What are his motivations? I wanted to know that too. Okay. Like, it's no secret, man. Like, I needed to know more about these people. You want to know more about me? You're listening to this podcast. That's why I started it. Okay. Like, we see so much visual content based around, like, oh, this person's so good. He's great. He's one of the best. we don't know anything about him besides just his spinning style or her spinning style. Like Cassie, like, who is she? Why does she juggle? So the greater questions in life are not so much what we can do, but why we do them, right? And so I think that's a really beautiful question, and I want to shout out everybody who asked that question, because it's not so much what are we doing on the podcast, it's why are we doing the podcast, and it's why it extends. Why do people spin poi? Why do people juggle poi? What is their motivation behind it? What is their training regimen? What are the secrets that they can give us? Okay, like what are the hardships that they've been through? Like I fucking hate juggling poi sometimes. How do you break through it? What are the motivations that you have to continue on? Right. So much of our history as a poi community and the juggling community abroad, much of it is undocumented. Okay. And my role, if nobody else is going to do it, I will do it. I will do it. And I think it's an important role to assume. And I think it's such an integral part of us documenting our history and to give homage based on the all those who came before us, right? Not only just our Tim Goddards and our Chris Kellys and our bow jugglers and all our top fucking talents of the world, right? What about Nick Woolsey? What about all the people that came, the four founders, the forefathers of our community and our knowledge, like the Zans, like all the people that really laid the groundwork. This podcast, if anything, should be documenting their history and paying homage to their groundwork that was put in. Right? Because if you didn't know who Zan Moore was, if you didn't know who Nick Woolsey was, a lot of people don't nowadays, which is crazy. But that is the world that we live in. This is 2024, guys. Like, this is a lot of people got into poi in the Instagram era. They got into poi in the short poi content era. They don't know the long tech poi vlogs. They don't know who Alien John is. They don't know who Keith Marshall is. They don't know who a lot of these important poi spinners that laid out the framework and laid out the groundwork for what we are currently building off of. Okay. Yeah. This podcast is to document their history and to pay respects to the people and the artists that came before us. If anything, that is what it's for. That is really what it's for, man.
Yeah, man. I think that's beautiful. I think that the podcast has been such a change for me in my mind of the way I think about a lot of things. And, it's a huge honor to me. It's one of the best moments of my life to be here right now talking about this so far later. And, I've even gotten to have a lot of good experiences from this podcast. I remember when you first told me that Ivan Mel Gorbanov was going to be on the podcast, and I almost started crying. Fast forward to Ivan Mel Gorbanov, man. I remember when the episode was going to take place, and I got to come on and talk with you guys before it started. And this is undoubtedly my number one favorite poi spinner in the world, favorite person to watch. One of the, I know from some people it might not be a big deal, man, but for me it was huge, just insane. I felt like I was talking to Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? It was huge. And the fact is, a lot of poi spinners, especially on this elite level, they're really fucking nice people. And they're really excited to talk about it and share. And, even now, like, it's just, again, it may seem kind of silly, but sometimes, I'll, be posting stories of my poi videos. And I'm like, I wonder how many people watch this. When I post a video of myself spinning poi and I see that Ivan has, Mel has watched, for me, I could die now, and be
Yeah,
happy.
dude,
right?
it's so cool. It's so cool. And if you're
absolutely
if you're this far through the episode, you know how significant that is to us. And for me and Sky, Red Pants, this wasn't a video that we talked about during this episode because it is a very referenced video.
Right.
But for us, that was one of the first tech videos that we ever saw. Right? So,
yeah.
So for Mel, for us to be even friends with this guy is an incredible honor, right? And it is truly, truly fucking special to have a relationship with the people that we grew up idolizing. And yeah, man, it is very, very, very fucking special. And I'm glad that you were able to chat with Mel.
It was
shout out to
insane.
Mel. I hope you're watching this. I'm going to send this to you.
I hope he's watching
too,
man. I hope he's watching.
Yeah. Absolutely. Huge shout out to Mel and to all the people that came before us and the legends that we've had on this podcast. Nick Woolsey, Tim Goddard.
Yeah.
Bo Juggler, like all the people and the huge artists that have been a part of this have really revolutionized what we want to do here in this project that we are both able to be a part of.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Again,
go ahead, man.
My greatest inspirations.
Same.
Have all most likely been interviewed. Almost all of them. They're coming up. We have some special episodes coming up, you guys. I'm in the works. Okay, so stay tuned. Hopefully, when this episode gets released, we have some really special things coming up. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Again, I know I've said this before, but I might be your guys' biggest fan. I don't have a Poidcast poster on my wall yet, but it'll be there. It'll be there next time you see me.
Merch is available, you guys. Yeah.
But it's a big honor for me to be here, man. And this is truly special to me, and it's from the bottom of my heart, man. I appreciate you and Joey so much for having me on here, man, and getting to talk to you and be the host of the Poidcast. It's just I could put that on a resume now. Seriously,
it's a big deal, man. It really is a big deal, and you're again one of the people that you appreciate this thing more than anybody, most likely, because you were there from day one, man. You were there from the day one, and you taught me how. You brought Poi to me from the very beginning, and look at what we're doing now, bro. Look at where we are now, man.
Absolutely, man.
Look at what we're doing for the Poi community, and I never wanted this project to be about myself. That's why I've assumed the host role. Okay, but it's fun. I know there's a ton of fans of as if anything that you do in life, if you're very involved in what you do, and even if you're supporting other people constantly and you're doing your own work in your own regard, there's going to be fans of you that want to see you interviewed and they want to know your story, right? So this is for you. If you're watching this still, this is for you. And I will deliver some closing thoughts here on the podcast to close out the episode. Number one, I am so grateful for all the artists that agreed to come on the podcast and believed in what we are doing and the importance of the work that we are doing right now. I have immense amounts of respect for the artists in my life, whether that be online or in person, that have contributed to where I'm at now. Huge shout out to Joey for being the tech side of things and doing the part of the podcast in which I could not do. Huge shout out to Joey. Please go support this man, co-host. Couldn't do this without him. And he is my protege in every sense of the word, if I've ever had one. Thank you so much for the support in general. When you see me at an event, please come to an event that I'm at. Please say hi. It's great. I'm a really friendly dude. I'm very happy to see anybody that is able to be there and knows who I am or is familiar with our work. If you are watching this, please be my friend. Okay. Please be my friend. So, please say what's up to an event that we are at. Any of us, Sky, myself, Joey, any of the people that you've seen on this podcast, we're all very friendly individuals. And the final thing that I will leave us with here is community is everything to me. And I appreciate every single one of you that has been a part of this journey and a part of the experience, whether you have contributed to this experience based on online contribution or in-person contribution or your contribution towards your skills, any way that you have been a part of this whole journey for any of us. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, as well as from Joey's and as well as Sky's. As a big episode 30 is a special episode for us, very much, very, very, very much. Sky, if you have any closing thoughts, we'll go ahead and close it out, man. Anything you want to say, we'll cut it here.
No, I just, I really want to put emphasis on how much that this means to me. I know that you feel the same way, man, but this is the only thing that's ever been consistent in my entire life. This is the only thing this taught me that I can be better at other things. This taught me that if I can be good at poi, maybe I can try other things. And I feel like it changed my life and made me believe in myself. And it helped me become the person I am today, man. And it's just, it's such a special moment to be here.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do and where you go, man, and just all the things to come. And, I love being the guy that gets to come on and say what up to people before they go on. Tim Goddard got to be like, what up, Tim? Mel, it's just, Shinobi. Just, big deals for me, man. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you and Joey. Thanks for what you're doing for the community. Thanks for all the insight that you're giving everybody on all of these artists and communities in different areas, man. I love you guys very much, and I hope we
love you too, man.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll close it out. Much love to everybody who's witnessed this and been a part of this journey. Support us on Patreon if you want to see us continue this project. We love you very much. And we will see you if you're a viewer and you want to show up to the events and the Flow festivals in the future. Say hi to me. Say hi to Joey. Say hi to Sky. We love you very much. That's a wrap.